This episode of Angles is brought to you by Richmond Personal Injury Attorneys. Expect high level communication, transparency, and cutting edge technology to keep your case moving. Expect a legal team that's laser focused and moves fast to get the results you deserve. When the unexpected happens, expect Richmond Vona. Learn more at richmondvona.com. 192 Seneca Street, Buffalo, New York. Welcome to Angles, the podcast where we dig into the stories behind impactful people and explore the sharp turns, daily decisions, and defining moments that shape how they got to where they are and how they keep moving forward. I'm John Richmond, and every week I sit down with guests who are building bold, meaningful lives and careers in Buffalo and beyond. If you enjoy these conversations, please hit follow, subscribe, drop a comment, or share the episode. It's a simple way to help us grow with the community and keep these stories coming. Today on Angles, I'm joined by Amanda, Colleen, and Rachel, the founders of Revolution Buffalo. What started as an idea among friends has grown into one of Buffalo's most welcoming fitness communities. They've built Rev with sweat equity, resilience, and an unshakable belief in making everyone feel like they belong the moment they walk through the door. From the early days of washing towels at midnight to pushing through COVID pivots, their stories about grit, teamwork, and creating connection. Let's get into it. All right, ladies, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Good. I'm really excited to be joined here today by the Revolution Buffalo team. We got Amanda, Colleen, and Rachel here. We're gonna do our best not to talk over each other, but super excited to talk to you all about what you've built, and I know there's so much more to it than maybe what the public sees. And I kind of wanted to kick it off by, the three of you. You founded this amazing business, and I got to imagine, as I've noticed with different businesses, that everyone kind of brings something a little bit different to the table. And I would love to hear kind of like maybe going through, starting with you, Amanda, how, how like it flows between the three of you, how you stay on track and make sure there's that cohesiveness as you build the business.
Yeah, I honestly think that's the most beautiful part and what made it, I don't want to call it easy, but easy to get off the ground 11 years ago now, is that all three of us come from different corporate backgrounds. So we were able to utilize that as we put together our business plan and got the business up and running. So when we created the business, I was working in public accounting. I'm a CPA. I no longer practice that. I run my family's insurance agency, but that background was what helped because I was able to put together the projections for our business plan, the financials, kind of all of those items. And even to this day, I still handle all of our bookkeeping, our payroll. So we were able to keep a lot of things that maybe would have cost a lot of upfront money in-house. And the same goes for the other girls too. Once they tell you what their corporate backgrounds are, it's stuff that we were able to really like lean into to help grow the business in a really professional way, without needing to bring in 10 outside people right off the bat.
Yeah, that's huge. So moving on to you, Colleen, what do you think, what's like your niche, or what do you bring to the table that's a little different?
Yeah, so I'm a copywriter by trade.
Wow.
Yeah, so I have a good background, a strong background in branding, which really helped us develop the brand from the start. And being on a corporate side of things, I really learned like a lot about just making sure you're keeping consistent and setting parameters and rules that maybe you might not be so conscious of when you're first developing the brand because there's so many different ways you could go. So I brought that to the table along with copywriting experience, so it could help with all of our marketing materials and then social media.
That's awesome. So you got the numbers person, which is
Uh-huh.
extremely important. You got the
Yes.
marketing person, which is extremely important. All right, Rachel, your turn.
Yep. And so my background's in marketing also. I am a sales woman by heart, and that is what I'm most passionate about. I'm very similar to Colleen on the branding side. So her and I are always kind of, going back and forth with what we think looks best, works best, whatever that might be. And really, relationship that is where my heart and soul is, with our clients, with our external partners, with just, the business in general. Um, and like I said, being in the corporate world my entire life, bringing some of that, it's kind of a nice back and forth where, Colleen and I are at very large companies. We've manage teams, work with teams. So kind of understanding that relationship, with our staff, I think is also really important. and just making sure, we have parameters in place and agreements, and everyone feels really valued, as our staff is the first uh the first point of contact, right, when you walk into the studio. So really making sure they're all, in line, and a lot of that corporate background has helped, I think, create a lot of that at the studio today.
Yeah, it's so important to have, your team all aligned with your values, your mission. I think, yeah, fortunately, I think more companies understand that today, but I think there's still a lot of companies that, still fail to really realize that. So, okay, so you all have, these different backgrounds. You're all good at different things, and I'm sure there's a lot of crossover. But how did this idea actually come about? Like, how did, I mean, you've been doing this for 11 years. Is this something you like wrote down on the back of a napkin and just like made a reality, or how did this work? How did this actually happen?
Yeah, actually a little bit. So Colleen and I were both teaching at different studios across Buffalo, and actually worked at Fisher Price together and didn't really even know. Like, we never crossed paths at Fisher Price. We actually crossed paths at the gym that we were teaching at that point. And we kind of felt like, you know, all we could control at that moment was when our clients got on the bikes or, picked up a couple weights, and that's all we had control over. So we had talked about it. Amanda and I grew up together. We've been, friends for a very long time. She started coming to my classes and randomly subbed in, here and there for me at a couple classes I was out of town for, and kind of said, what do we think it would be like to start our own business and kind of do this thing from, we control everything, right? The moment our clients walk in the door, until the moment that they leave, and really kind of brought, some of our heart and soul and things that we were passionate about to the business. So I kind of brought it up to Amanda, and she was like, I'm in. And then we were like, well, I feel like Colleen would be really great, a third partner for us. And we, chatted with her about it, and she was in. And it kind of like, we were like, okay, wait, let's do this. And truly built out the business plan. We worked with a lot of local partners to help us do that, which we are forever grateful for, because our initial business plan was, very rough kind of outline that we were going to start. We all started just the three of us, and, kind of grew from there. But yeah, it was a really interesting way to just have this idea and say, okay, are you in? And everybody was in, and we were like, let's just go. We never even looked back.
You
We
know,
pulled it off very quickly too. If you think back to
that's what
the
I was going to
time
ask you. Yeah.
schedule, I want to say it was like idea to literal soft opening was probably 6 months. It was really quick. Rachel's mom has a really big background in business as well, so she helped. I think the initial business plan was put together by the two of you. And then my dad, obviously, with a background in owning a business, like we went through it ourselves too. And then we took it to a bank. And the bank was like, wow, we have never seen a business plan quite this organized before, which I think gave us a little more confidence to get things up and running. But we were truly an example of like sweat equity in this. We started off in a little carriage house. We painted it ourselves. We set everything up in there ourselves. We used to take the towels home and wash them every night. We would just be like, okay, who's teaching tonight? You're also teaching tomorrow at 5 a.m. So go home, wash them, bring them back. It was, we took out a very small business loan with the SBA. We bought, I think 16 bikes was our initial purchase, and maybe 9 TRX straps. So that was our initial start. And then we just continued to grow. So we paid that off. We took out another small business loan, bought another 10 bikes. Our max pre-COVID, we had 40 bikes in our space. We have a little bit less now just because people are still not as comfortable to be literally on top of each other, but we're at 34 now is our typical class size in that space.
That's amazing. Colleen, when in those early days, like those first 6 months or so, um, did you guys ever like say, are we really doing this? Like, was there ever a pause, or was just like foot on the gas, like, let's go?
I think we're foot on the gas. Let's go. I will mention that Buffalo State had a really nice small business program that we worked with to help develop our business plan as well. You sat down with like a kind of like a counselor there, and they reviewed your business plan and they gave you, pointers and that sort of thing. Change these things, think about these things. Really got us thinking about some things we might not anticipate. Really, as you build out a business, and then you take it back and you kind of get their like gold star, and then you kind of go from there. So that was a really nice resource, along with Amanda's dad and Rachel's mom, to get that going. But I think we really were just so excited to be able to create some sort of continuity of experience. Like Rachel mentioned, we wanted to make sure that everything was like full circle, that you were treated the way that we wanted you to be treated when you walked in the door from the moment you left. And then even those touch points in between through social media, email, and that sort of thing. So yeah, we just pressed go. I think, we sacrificed a lot in the beginning, just in terms of, we were in our early 20s. Am I doing that? So I'm not the math person. Mid 20s,
Yep.
right? Mid 20s.
I'm not a math person either. Don't feel bad.
So there were a lot of things we had to say no to in terms of like family and friends and that sort of thing, because we were really focused on the physical portion of getting the building up and running for the business, and then all the work that went on behind the scenes. To Amanda's point about the laundry, I remember just even having to ask my landlord, like, we're going to be like tripling to quadrupling the amount of water we're using. Is that okay?
Isn't there something beautiful about that though? Like the really early days when like you're wearing all the hats, you're doing everything yourself,
Yeah. And I think it gives you a good appreciation for what everyone at your business contributes now after you've grown. That, I've been there and I've done that role, and I can empathize with maybe some frustrations or struggles, or some vision they have for it, because you've done that. And that's really important, I think, for every business owner, to experience that at some point in their business, if it's not at the start.
It also makes me so proud of like how far we've come.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite pictures are the ones from us like steam mopping the studio on like a Friday night at 11 p.m. Back in the day. But I was just away for a conference the past couple days, and I mentioned at dinner like, oh yeah, I run two businesses. And they were like, oh, so you're not really here. Like you're stressed out. You're on your phone. You're answering emails. And I literally looked and was like, actually, not at all. Like we have such a good team in place, whether it's the two of them picking up anything that I might be missing, but we also have a really great management team that handles most of our day-to-day. So today we just had a phone call with them. We chat every week for about an hour and a half. Obviously things come up during the week and we chat, but the team has gotten so good at saving anything that's, not an emergency. And I think it's really, really changed how the business runs, and also how we feel about being able to delegate and also not feel like we're responding to things all day long, every day, because that was absolutely the case for, I don't know, at least 8 years that we were on call 24/7.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I think, they always say, right, delegate and elevate is easier said than done. But once you start growing and you realize you're just becoming a bottleneck, you have to really kind of like give it off. And that's why obviously it's so important to have great people. And people like obviously that they earn your trust and they believe in your mission. And that's something that I think is interesting. Like, so like a lot of business owners, and I'm hearing it all from you, right? That, we wanted to control everything about the experience, I guess, Rachel, can you elaborate a little more? Like what is the mission of the company? Like, how do you want to make people feel, whether they're seeing you on social media or walking in through the door to have a class?
Yeah, great question. I think our biggest thing is that every single person is welcome, right? We could care less where people come from, how many classes they've had, have they had experience on a bike or, lifting a weight before. We have options for everyone. So we want everyone to come in knowing it's a safe environment. We're an inclusive environment. You can walk in as who you are, and we honor that. We respect that. And we really make sure to let that light shine, right? Whether it's our staff or clients, all of us. And we all make that difference. And like I said, it's from the second that person walks in, right? It's how they're greeted. It's how they're shown around the studio. It's that conversation. And then after we get past, those first couple classes, they feel comfortable. They keep coming back for more, which we love. It's that other connection point, right? Of, hey, I saw you were at a wedding this weekend. How was it? You looked so great doing this and that. Tell me about it. What's going on with your family, right? whatever it is, just making those connections and making, and we love it. That's like what we live for. It's really, important to build that connection and then ultimately kind of bringing that out into our community, right? So that's where it's like mind, body, and that community piece I think is really big for us and has been big for us since we've opened our doors. So we always say, when we do interviews, when we chat with people, it's always we feel better and we can be a better coworker, partner, friend, whatever it might be, when we've done something, for ourselves, whether it's 30 minutes, 60 minutes, just kind of moving our bodies. We always feel better. So what we like to do, a couple times throughout the year is kind of put those good vibes forward into our community too. So we partner with a lot of different communities, locally, and then if we have some sort of nonprofit or something that our uh, clients are interested in supporting, we also do private rides that way. And again, it's just about building that connection for ourselves, but then also out into our community.
Yeah, it's amazing, especially here in Buffalo, right? The community is so tight. Um, it's amazing. I lived in New York City for a long time, and when I moved here, I was just blown away, and even more so now, obviously being more ingrained in the community. Um, and I hear you. It makes so much sense, right? You want people to feel good about themselves, and it's across all these different touch points. But I think we could probably all agree that you could have all the systems, the processes, like everything in place, but you need the people who actually are aligned with your mission, with your values, who want to go above and beyond for people. Colleen, how do you guys go about picking the people who are going to be there? Like maybe what are your non-negotiables, or how do you make sure that while you're away from the business, or even while you're there, that these people are actually being true to like your mission and your values?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of so obviously like you can learn a lot through your interview process, but I think some of the most successful staff members we've had at Rev have been clients. So we have a good knack for turning avid cyclers into instructors. Uh Folks up in the lab that are obsessed with the programs up there, training them into lab instructors. And then we've had our current business manager has been with us since almost day one as a client. So a lot of that internal, um, hiring and growth and development is what's really gotten us to the point now where we can trust people with the brand and the mission and not even have to have a second thought about it.
Yeah, it's huge when you can trust people. Like Amanda, you were saying, you're able to step away and do things that are going to ultimately, better the business and create better experiences for your clients, and you can actually like focus on that because you're trusting all the people that are back at home.
Yes, absolutely.
So, as you think about, kind of your journey, every business owner I talk to, even when things are going really well, will they have like those tough spots, right? And you mentioned COVID. Maybe it's that. Like, Amanda, is there a time, like at least so far in this journey, where maybe you all thought, I mean, are we going to make it, or what? Why did we do this? Like that type of thing.
Yes, COVID would be by far the hardest thing that we've done as a business, um, for so many reasons. Obviously, the first being we had to be closed for a very long amount of time, and we can talk about that. But the second part was just everyone's patterns and habits changed after COVID. So almost having to rebuild the entire business after COVID was a completely new thing as well. People had their Pelotons, they had their new routines, so it was kind of like you thought you were out of the woods, and then it was a whole new situation. But COVID, I mean, we made the decision, I think just a couple days before the state closed everything down. We sat down and said, this just doesn't feel right. Everything just felt so dark and confusing at that point
Yeah,
in
oh yeah.
time. And our goal is to always make sure that our clients do feel safe and that we're keeping their best interests in mind. So we made that call that it was time to close the doors. And at that point, we had no idea how long, right? But we did that. And then it was really nice because a lot of other local places were kind of like following our lead in a great way, like reaching out saying, hey, what are you guys doing? What's your plan? And so we kind of were able to say, hey, this is what we're doing. We're choosing this date. Kind of made us feel a little more comfortable with it too, that we weren't alone in the decision. But from there, I mean, I couldn't tell you how long it was now that we had to be fully closed, but it was a significant amount of time where we just had to say, okay, we still have, bills, we still had to pay rent. We had some payroll still. So can we have online classes? We rented out our bikes. We delivered the bikes. We were going to the studio one at a time with masks on to record class, selling merch, like as many things that we could do. But then we finally, and again, it comes down to relationships. I know Rachel mentioned that's our biggest, like one of our most important things, but we happened to know someone down at Larkinville. And that was how our spin at Larkin came to be. We had our bikes down in a shipping container that we rented from Oxford Pennant, another local business. And every single morning and every single evening, we rolled those bikes out of the shipping container. I think we had 30 of them out there, rolled them out, got the speakers out. Everyone had the silent disco headphones, and we hosted class. 95-degree days, rainy days, just whatever we could do. And honestly, it was magic. It was so much work behind the scenes that clients didn't see, but I think it brought life back to us. I think it made such a big difference for our clients who were feeling lonely and lost. It was really, really special. It made all that work worth it. Thinking back, it was really difficult. Colleen and I were both very pregnant throughout the entire
Man.
the entire phase. I mean, I have pictures teaching 95-degree heat. Like my son was born 3 days later. We really worked through a lot with that. And then once we were able to reopen, it was with 6 bikes in a room. So that was its own problem with a mask on. Not to keep the story too much longer, but we also then moved to Seneca One and had a space in their really big clubhouse where we could have all of our bikes all socially distanced. And we were there for 4 or 5 months. And that was also a really incredible community experience. It was light in there. So typically a spin class is dark and, everybody really just saw each other. And it was really magical. So that was all wonderful. But then once we finally were able to go back into our space, that's when we really had to just kind of rebuild again and find new clients and a new market. So
And
that was by far the most difficult thing that we've had to go through as a business.
yeah,
There's
because
been
Speaking
many
of
more.
Seneca, speaking of Seneca One, it's so funny. I was at a get together this past weekend, and one of our clients said, "You know what I really miss was like the vibe down at Seneca One."
It
And I
was
was like, "Oh my gosh!" We didn't really think about it then because it was just kind of like we were going through the motions, we were moving, we were cruising, like whatever we could do to kind of keep that energy up and keep people feeling connected. But I thought about it after she said that, and I was like, you know what? That was really fun. And what a great, again, another connection that we had that said, yeah, come down and set up shop and let's see what we can create.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's right. Like you're thrown into a tough situation and you have two choices. Like we can either continue to pivot, like figure this out, keep pushing forward, or we just lay down and that's it. Right.
Yep.
I think, Rachel, it sounds like, I don't want to necessarily ask you to speak for everybody, but I guess maybe, do you all feel like you kind of like you learned something about yourselves, like what you're really made of, like going through that?
Yes. Yes.
Obviously it's incredible that you started this business, but then to push through this, you must have learned a lot about who you really are and like what you can do.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. I think we learned a lot about each other too. I think it's twofold. We learned that wow, like we were in such a rhythm, the first whatever, 6, 7 years of business. And yeah, we had things where, we had to move and we were doing stuff outside and whatever. But I think we learned a lot about each other in the sense of, we had some hard days up front. And I know you initially asked that question. There were times, that's the most beautiful thing about having 3 of us is that someone might have been having a day where we were like, man, this feels like a lot, right? There's a lot going on. There's this, there's that. We were all, very young moms at the time. There was a lot going on. And every single day, the amount of texts that you would not even imagine, phone calls, text, where we lifted each other up again and again and again. We got this. I know. Yep. It's hard. I was having a day, Colin and Amanda picked me up. Colin was having a day, vice versa, right? It was always like this beautiful relationship. And I think we learned a lot about each other too, where, and this word, I will forever say it over and over and over. We are so resilient on our own and together that it was just like, we joke about it now. We're like, what else? Bring it on, right?
Yeah.
What else you got for us? Like, if
Yeah.
we could get through that, we could truly get through anything. And I think there was days, just kind of speaking on the more personal side for us too, where we were all working from home with young kids at home, right? We were trying to run this business on the side where you said it was pivot, 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 sometimes by the minute, by the hour, right? Watching the news, every, 12 o'clock update that somebody would give, we're like, okay, what do we need to go do now?
Yeah.
So, I think we learned it's like we can be flexible and we are resilient, and there was hard days during that and days that we might have wanted to lay down and say, you know what, I think this might be it. And every single day we got back up and we just continued to reinvent.
We'll be right back after a word from our partners.
After an accident, life can be scary, stressful, tricky. You need Richmond Bona to help navigate the process, because getting a life-changing settlement can not only take time, it can take an emotional toll. The team at Richmond Bona provides high levels of support through all the ins and outs, so you get the settlement you need and the new beginning you deserve.
When the unexpected happens,
expect Richmond Bona.
Now back to the conversation. I think that's the key difference maker, right? Business owners who maybe don't realize it when you start, like how difficult it's going to be. Like I know, like I had no clue, right? Like you think you know how hard it's going to be, and then you figure it out pretty quick. You're like, oh wow, this is crazy. But there is something, kind of cool about being able to navigate through those challenges, especially with amazing partners who you can lean on. And like you said, like someone can have a bad day, but the other two pick her up, and then vice versa. But you ladies got yourself through it. You're still thriving. Colleen, what do you think has been kind of the key to success, especially coming out of COVID?
Good question. I think, our like united front moving forward with a plan from COVID, and that willingness to pivot when things weren't working. When we came back, moving from Larkinville to the clubhouse back to the studio, and really also like almost, like redeveloping the relationship with clients and
Yep.
helping them understand that like they could trust us and that we had their best interest in mind. And it wasn't just like for the sake of the business survival. It was because we truly care about them and we want this piece of their lives, this health and wellness, to like be a part of it for a much longer time. So I think we did a lot of that through social media, video, communication, touch points, outside the studio, within the studio, the messaging that we were bringing forth in classes and that sort of thing. But really just like regaining the trust of clients and then staff, because we're asking them to show up and be around all these people. And, so-and-so is sick, or like, somebody's feeling not well. So like we're willing to let 3 people not come in today because they don't feel well, and we don't expose other people to that. But like it means other people have to pick up the slack, and like
Right.
kind of like all holding hands through all of that,
Yeah.
and just kind of putting one foot in front of the other, and getting into a groove. And then suddenly, you're out of it, and we're feeling like numbers are back to where they should be. And um, you just kind of have to keep moving forward. And I don't know if there's always like a plan, but it's just kind of bouncing along and
Yeah.
trusting your instinct, trusting, the instincts of those around you that support you and have, great ideas to add to the mix. You know, our husbands, our families, they can talk us down off the ledge or push us, up to the top of the mountain when we're not trusting ourselves. So I think that's all really important, and how we got back into the game of it all. And not that we ever left, because we were still, but just
Yeah.
moving forward.
Well, definitely real quick. Spouses are so important. My wife is like,
Yeah.
she helps me out so much. It's incredible. Like I don't thank her enough, but what I hear from all of you is, you're making all these changes, but you're constantly doing or making hard decisions, but keeping like your client's best interest in mind, like no matter what, like you're relentless in that pursuit. Amanda, like how would you, I mean, a lot of things change, but like, how would you describe, the community within? I mean, because to me from the outside, it really seems like this safe space, like this empowering space where people can come be themselves regardless of where they are at their fitness journey. But that's just how I look at it. Like how would you describe like your community within?
That is so accurate, and I'm really glad to see that looking from the outside in, it shows. But just a great example would be a brand new client coming in, right? That has maybe no fitness background, really nervous about class, maybe doesn't feel good about themselves. Our clients will be the first people to say, like, "Oh, your bike 5, that's this bike. Let me show you where it is. Here's where the towels are." We'll do our best as instructors and a team to do the tour and the like, this is where the shoes are. But that is what we're there to do, right? They're paying us to do that. When the clients show up and just provide that, not that we don't want to provide it, right? But you're expecting that. But when our clients just out of nowhere shake a hand, give a little, like a handlebar tap, say you did a good job, it makes such a difference. And it's definitely the reason that they would come back for more. Or what we've seen a lot lately is clients who cycle only. So they're in our downstairs space spinning, and they love that because they feel comfortable in the dark and they feel like there's not a lot of pressure. They've been moving into classes upstairs and gaining the confidence because other people in the class say, "Oh my gosh, we were chatting after class by the water cooler, and my favorite class is the strengths class. And if you want to come with me, I'll show you the ropes." And I mean, I think we've seen 4 people over the past 2 weeks. You girls could probably validate that, vouch that for me, but that have done that, that are just feeling so comfortable because of the rest of the community inside of our space.
And you know that, I mean, I know you all know this. I mean, that you're giving people confidence, like, you're giving people,
What it's all about.
probably it's not just within your studio. No, they're going on into their lives and maybe being more confident at work or in their personal lives. And that's super powerful. I mean, Rachel, I got to imagine you've seen some transformations of people, of clients. And is there anyone that maybe sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, wow, we've seen a lot. I think exactly what you said though, it's kind of like they build that confidence and we talk about it a lot in class, right? Like a lot of our instructors will have a message or we call it the reflection song, right? Where we give the team that class a message to kind of think about for those 3 to 4 minutes and incorporate into their lives however you want. And I think a lot of that builds trust, builds confidence, and allows them to feel empowered. And I always say, take this outside of these 4 walls, right? Like how you feel, this vibe right now. How do we take that outside of these 4 walls? Whether it's what we talked about earlier, a colleague at work, a friend, a partner, whatever. Um, it makes you feel better, right? So I think we've had a lot of transformations. I mean, we have people and we have an app that we use that allows us to communicate with our clients for the first time. It allows them to write reviews on instructors, and I get chills thinking about it because some of the messages we get from first timers and people who have been coming forever are like, "Wow, the feeling I have and." When I'm in that saddle, when I'm upstairs in that class, whatever it is, the empowerment I feel, the confidence that this space has helped me build. I mean, it's so validating and it just feels like, wow, what we set out to do is exactly what we're doing, right? I think the other thing too that's really great and Amanda mentioned it with just new people coming in, and I think if you were to walk into the studio and ask a handful of people who their best friends are, they would look right around them and tell you it's those people who they didn't know before they got to Rev. Like they met at the studio. They went to brunch, they went to the bookstore, they went shopping together. They just caught up over a cup of coffee about what's going on in life and how they're feeling, and those connections that we've made kind of inside that have really transitioned to outside. It's incredible. It's something I never really dreamt that we could do.
Yeah. Colleen, how do you think, I mean, is there like a secret sauce to that? Or like you just kind of like all just, is it just because of like the environment you've created and just getting the right people together? Like, I mean, I don't know. I think about that because I'm thinking about like, man, I bet a lot of people don't realize, that there's that opportunity there, especially at places like Rev.
Yeah, I think we've often said that good attracts good, and Rev's a really good example of that. The people that walk in those doors are from all different walks of life, all different levels in their careers, their school. But there's like something magical that happens that we can't always put into words, and you can't even bottle it up and put it into another building or space. But the goodness that is in the people that are within that space just pulls more people in. They say, I love this place. I want to bring somebody else that I care about here. Or I made this new friend and now I'm going to be friends with their friends. And then we're going to bring those friends in. So a lot of it is like really organic magic.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I was thinking about this before we started the podcast, and I was like, you know, it's pretty interesting. Probably each of you have your own styles, right? When you're teaching classes, but there's like that, just like that common thread between all of them. Amanda, you guys have now you started off as a cycling studio, but now you're offering all these different classes. Like, it must be cool to see people like, the other ladies were talking about starting off doing one thing and moving into others. How do you guys decide, like, what you're going to offer, what you're not going to offer? Like, how do you make those decisions?
I think when we started, so we always had cycling but it was a much smaller and. So we had TRX, which is a suspension training. It's good for all ages. It's just like a really great way to ease into the strength space if you're not comfortable. So we just kind of grew it from there. We started to add a little bit of equipment to turn those classes into a bit more of a strength style class with dumbbells. But I think for us, it's always been, how can we offer a really well-rounded routine so that our clients can come, and I mean, we love when they support other local businesses as well, but what can we offer to keep them coming, taking care of themselves, not getting injured, right? So if they're cycling all the time, what else are they doing to make sure that they're maintaining strength and stretching and doing all the things that they need? So often it's a matter of, what do we think will really fill out the workout for you and round out your wellness journey. We try to keep an eye on what the market is doing, but we also don't just leap. So sometimes we'll hear of a trend and we'll take some time and sit back and watch and see what's happening. And if we decide it's not our brand, it's not just something that we'll be good at, then we'll stay out of it and we'll let another local business do great at that and, recommend that our clients check out XYZ. So it's kind of offering everything that we think people need and knowing what things we can't be our best in.
Yeah,
I think
you want,
Rachel's always said that, like,
yeah,
where you can really thrive and where you're not going to win. And then that's where you let somebody else do a better job of it. And we have brought in staff that do teach classes that we didn't have the skill set to teach. So they're teaching different styles of strength classes. We have run certified coaches teaching run classes. So things that we maybe couldn't do ourselves, but we've hired to do them really,
yeah.
really well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I I think about this in business, like a lot of business owners, like, I don't know if there's a term for this, but I think about like a cat chasing like a flashlight on the wall. And you got to be like super careful not to like just be like freaking out all over the wall with all these. There's endless options, right? But are you staying true to like, what your core functions are, and like you said though, but hiring people who can do things that you can't, but kind of understanding what you can handle, I think is pretty important. And but one thing I actually wanted to hear you all talk about more, because I've seen you do this many times, and one of you mentioned this earlier on when we were talking, and Rachel, maybe you could take this one. You do a lot of these private rides to raise money or awareness, for organizations or for people. Can you talk about, kind of how you got started doing that, and like kind of what that looks
Felt a
like, and if
mix of
somebody wanted
relief
to do
and
that, how they'd go
determination.
about,
As they
contacting you?
turned their focus
Yeah.
away from
Yeah.
the
It
egg's
started as
immediate
really
dilemma,
just
Pick's
kind of
inquisitive
grassroots, part
nature
of
took
our
over.
mission,
With a
right? And
keen
again, it
eye
goes
for
back to that
detail,
community
they
piece. And
began
we
to
talked
inspect the
about,
ornate room and
as
its
we started the
statues,
business, that
searching
was a
for
big
any
piece,
hidden
right? We
compartment.
wanted to be and live in our community and also give back to it. So when we started, we were doing a lot of just, maybe organizations we had contacts with or that we might have volunteered with at, our jobs. So just some examples, we would do we call it a sweat it forward. So we would do, a 30 or 45-minute ride or workout, whatever we decided. And then we take that whole collective group of people and go out into the community. And whether it was, volunteering to pack bags at Feed More, whether it was grassroots gardens and helping, local schools and places, whether it was Earth Day and we were just cleaning up Main Street with a group of people. the tool library, right? There were so many opportunities for us to get involved and be part of our community. And we really realized that people loved it. They were like, how can we do more of this? We do a lot over the holidays with St. Luke's and Camp Good Days, and just some really feel good, like, right, we talked about you're in this space, you're sweating, these vibes, everybody feels so great. We got whatever we needed to get out, and we're moving along with our day. How do we bring that out to our community? So then we started to open it up and say, how do we make sure that our clients feel the impact and feel that we're contributing to things that are really meaningful to them, whether it's, Roswell, whether it's Parkinson's, whether it's a relief fund, right, for something that's kind of going on in our community or even outside of, but that our clients have a connection or relationship with. So we have a lot of clients that just reach out and say, hey, we're doing X, Y, and Z. Would you guys want to donate? And so a lot of times we'll do, a 10 pack gift card and some merch or whatever, for some of these local charities and giveaways. Or if they have a group or foundation, we can bring them in and raise money and open that up to the rest of our clients to say, hey, this is what we're doing this week, for Children's Hospital or for whoever. We're opening this thing up, it's $20 or whatever it is to ride, and kind of create the event and community space that way. And then, it's all for charity, and really get a good group and good crowd that enjoys doing that. But again, it's like, what is meaningful and makes an impact for us, and allowing our clients to feel that same way.
Yeah, it's great. And people, everywhere, but especially in Buffalo, there's such a sense of community here. People love giving back. I love seeing when businesses are doing it. I was just talking to some other business owners the other day about this, and someone's like, is it bad that, am I selfish that I feel good when I'm doing good things for other people? I'm like, no, that's great, right? Like, use that as motivation to continue to do it. And I think as business owners, we have an obligation, to do that because we're in a position to do so. Colleen, we were talking a lot about your community, about Buffalo, about, giving back. Um, how would you define the Buffalo fitness community? What do you think what do you think it is that makes it so special?
Well, it's big. It's grown a lot since we started. When we entered the market, there were just a handful of boutique studios here, and it's grown in a really big way so that there's something for everybody. Generally, these studios are all friendly with each other. We have a relationship to varying degrees with each other, and we look out for each other if we hear, of issues in the neighborhood, or we hear of something positive happening somewhere else that we want them to be a part of. We kind of all, you know, within our pockets of the community, share that information with each other and that relationship. And I think that's really great. I don't know what it's like in larger cities like in New York or a Boston. I'm assuming that it might be a little bit trickier to feel that sense of continuity with other studios because there are so many more and it's such a mass scale. But I would imagine that the fitness trend in general has led to this point of community in a lot of places. So even these bigger cities, I would imagine that if it's not across the entire, um, you know, uh, vicinity of Manhattan, there's these pockets within that are still doing something very similar. So we are very lucky in Buffalo that we have this unique situation, that we have this city that is already community forward, and it's like comes natural to so many people, so that the businesses work together. And even outside of the fitness community, we've been able to build really great relationships with small business owners by word of mouth, by some of the programs we've participated in at 43 North. And that sort of thing. So everybody's kind of looking out for each other, whether you're fitness or just small business, saying, "Hey, oh, you're dealing with this issue. I know somebody that dealt with that recently. Maybe you can get in touch with them." Or you're having success in this area. I know somebody that's just starting and would love to talk to you. That sort of thing. So we're really fortunate that Buffalo in general as a fitness community is really open to that kind of conversation and collaboration, and that the small business community in general also seems to be that way.
Yeah, I agree for sure. Amanda, if someone came in, like say from LA or New York, and just were like, hey, I'm going to go take a class here, and they walked in, what would you hope that they, would feel about Rev just from being in the room there?
We have this happen often, and it's such an amazing thing because they'll come in and they'll say, "Oh, I spin at Soul Cycle all the time," which we all love, and they'll say like this class I felt like the quality of the workout that I expect from a big city, but I also felt that like small town warmth, you know. So I think, I mean, our facility, I like to think is of the caliber of something you would find in a bigger city. We have parking, which you might not find in a big city, but then we have the people. And I just don't think that you could find that anywhere else. So I think it's a really great symbiotic thing where like you can get that high quality big city workout with the amenities you're expecting. But then there's this great little, oh, you're from so out of town. Are you looking for a place to get coffee? Are you looking for a place to have dinner? We'd love to give you some recommendations. And
Yeah,
I don't think you would get that in a bigger city always.
that fires me up. I love that because that's like it's like
That's my
Buffalo deserves.
favorite part.
Yes, Buffalo deserves the best.
Yeah.
Buffalo is awesome. It deserves the best. And I love when people like you three and like, it's like you mentioned like Dave Horsch from Oxford Pennant and Tom and Caitlin Moriarty from Moriarty Meats and like all these amazing people are like, hey, we're going to go out. We're going to bring big city, like, we'll call it quality with like that local Buffalo, like personality and, you know, and that one-on-one it's perfect, right? It's like that perfect blend.
Yeah.
Like that's what you want to see. And I love when people do that because, you know, it's, you know, Buffalo went through some hard times, but we're on the up and up. And like, you know,
Yeah.
it's because of people like yourselves. So I guess I just wanted to hear, I guess, as we're kind of rounding out the conversation from each of you, I'm going to start with Rachel. What's in store for Rev or like, what are you most excited about?
Yeah. I think really just continuing the trajectory we're on. We have such a great vibe in the studio. You know, we're kind of coming back from everybody sometimes takes this little, you know, summer hiatus. You know, people are outside a little bit more. So we're coming back into our busy season, which is always just such an exciting, kind of energizing time for us. Tons of new people coming in. So honestly, just continuing that. I think we've found such a great rhythm with our staff that we have. We're consistently, um, adding some new front desk staff here and there. So some new faces for people to see. You know, we continue to grow our team, continue to offer, different things. We love to test out new times. What makes the most sense on the schedule so that we can really make sure we're doing the best, for us, for our staff, but also our clients. So just kind of continuing the momentum that we're on really and making it a really good, finishing out 25 and a wonderful 26 on the horizon.
Okay. I like it. Great answer. Colleen, what about you?
Yeah, I would say to piggyback off of Rachel, that momentum, keeping that going forward. I think we have some nice plans in place for some staff development this fall and early winter of next year. So making sure that not only are we focusing on what the business needs on the client side to keep those folks coming back in the door and feeling good about what we're providing them, but making sure that our staff feels really connected to those goals that we have and that they feel supported and that they're getting, the full toolbox of what they need to provide that experience across the board.
All right. And last but not least, Amanda.
Well, I can give you a different answer just as our numbers person, which is just that, being 11 years in, I feel like we're always like waiting for the other shoe to drop in terms of how well the business is doing. And we are on par to have by far our best year yet in terms of
Congrats.
sales and class attendance. So from that not feel good side, I mean it is a feel good thing, right? But not the feels and the warm and fuzzies, just from a business standpoint, it's also gearing up to be our best year. So it feels nice to have that validation that the work that we're putting in and the, small changes and the constant evolution is working.
That's amazing. Congratulations. You all deserve it. And um, I guess there's a couple more now I think about it. Colleen, what would you say to somebody who's like, I really want to get my health journey on track. Like I want to feel better. I'm interested in cycling or the other classes Rev offers, but I'm just nervous about just booking that first class and walking through the door. What message would you send to that person?
Yeah, well, I would try to reassure them that no matter what class they end up in at Rev, they're going to feel welcome. And I think, like as an instructor myself, I try to make sure that I'm reading what the person is feeling. So if somebody's coming in and I do get those vibes that they're nervous and they're a little anxious and stuff. I try not to be overbearing with the information and the warmth that I'm giving them. I try to deliver just the right amount. And then, kind of let them be and then check in afterwards. And we have a couple of checkpoints after class that we reach back out to them. But I would just say that, I hope that they could trust us, that we have their best interest in mind, that everybody starts somewhere on their journey. And you don't have to be already fit, or you don't have to fit any sort of preconceived notion of what it looks like to be in a fitness space, that there's people there that want them there, including the clients and the people working out around you. And if they can just give it a try and trust us, we will not lead them wrong.
All right. I think that's a great note to end on. Ladies, I appreciate it. You all are amazing, and, super happy for all of you, and looking forward to continue to watch you all grow. And, hats off to you. I'm so happy you're having so much success.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for listening to Angles. If this episode made you think, smile, or see something in a new way, follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Leave a review and share it with friends. You can also follow us on social media. Angles is produced by Brett Tuttle. I'm John Richmond. See you next time.